She's an award-winning writer, a hunting guide, archery and rifle instructor, keynote speaker, and all-around outdoors woman who encourages you to get outside, hunt, fish, shoot, and savor all that life has to offer. And now, here's your host, Mia Anstine.
Well, hey, hi, hello, you all. I'm so happy to be visiting with you again. Today, I want to share with you another wonderful, inspirational woman that is doing great things to help you get outside to hunt, fish, and shoot, and also maybe do a little exploring that is not called foraging. And I want to share this with you because I know this is something that is for experienced outdoors persons or inexperienced outdoors persons. And so if you're looking for a way to find a great community, it's a wonderful place that you can go and also wonderful things that you can do in multiple states. So I hope you enjoy the show. As you're listening, as always, links will be in the show notes. If you want to watch the show, it is always published on our YouTube, Mac Outdoors, and the podcast stream there. You can tune in and watch the guests and me as you see fit. And also, if you would like, please reach out to these organizations, show them your support. If you think that any organizations or interviewees that I share would be good for someone else, share the show with your friends, with your family, or somebody that you think could be inspired by what we have to offer. And so, without further ado, let's join myself and Erin Crider. Hey guys, are you looking for a stylish concealed carry shirt? Check out Tarn Cap Gear. With print reducing patterns, concealed carry snaps, and minimal branding, Tarn Cap's cloak of invisibility is what you have been waiting for. Visit mia.limited/tarncap and use the code Anstine for 10% off your purchase. Again, that's mia.limited/tarncap and use code Anstine for 10% off your order. Right. Well, welcome to the show, Erin. I'm so happy to have you visiting with me today. I have seen you out and about on social media, or at least I've seen the Uncharted Outdoorswomen out on social media. So that you know, I too am a hunting guide, but I'm kind of semi-retired. So when I saw your stuff, I was like, oh, dang, I wish I'd seen this like a decade ago. I would have totally been all over it.
Yeah.
But I was really excited because I have a lot of listeners who are interested in the outdoors. And I want to share you and everything you do with them. So, would you please just give them kind of a brief introduction about you and Uncharted Outdoorswomen?
Sure. So my name is Erin Crider. I am the founder and sole owner of Uncharted Outdoorswomen. We are in Colorado, Wyoming, Montana, and Oregon. We are an outfitter in 2 of the 4 of those states and pursuing our outfitter's license in all of them. And we simply create space for women in the outdoors. So we don't really do any traditional guiding. We do more educational events, but you can still go and like hunt your elk with our female guides. So we're trying to empower women with as much knowledge and confidence as we can give them so that they buy that hunting license and that fishing license every year. And all that money from the licenses goes back into our public lands for conservation because we believe we need this conservation. We need it to stick around. So the more people we can create a welcoming space for and give them skills, it just flows all back into conservation. So that is our mission.
Yeah, and I'm really happy to hear you say conservation because it's something that I teach about a lot. And so when you're talking about conservation, what are you looking at when you're teaching conservation? What kind of things do you share?
So I feel like a lot of new hunters think that we're just like shooting at animals from the truck whenever we want. But really, like, there's a deer problem in a lot of states, right? And we have to keep the deer population down or to where it should be to let, for example, grouse thrive within those grasses, those native grasses that the deer just munch down and eat, just on the very simple terms.
Yeah, and I think that's awesome. As I said, it's something that we've talked about on the podcast. In past episodes, we've actually talked about grouse and their habitat and reasons why in some areas their populations are on the decline. So I'm really excited that you're sharing that with other women. Is it women only or women and men? You said it's safe space for women?
We have all kinds of people,
Okay.
everybody.
Anybody and everybody is welcome. Okay.
Yeah.
And that's good to know. When you're doing these projects, what I saw on your website is you have people involved from all over the country. Can you tell us about the people that you have that work with you?
Sure. So everyone on our website is actually an employee of Uncharted Outdoorswomen. They are licensed guides. They're in the places that we're an outfitter. I do protect them from all the things that can go wrong in the outdoors. So that's why they have to be an employee, number one. Number two is a lot of the permits that we have also require employment. So these aren't volunteers that are just going to willy nilly like put together a little event like I used to do for lots of nonprofit organizations and then like one and done, right? This is like women that you can grow your confidence with, understand how they like to teach, find a guide that whose teaching style matches your learning style. And they all have very specific, I guess, classes that they like to teach. And you could run into more than one of them at the classes too, because they like to learn from each other. So they do a ton of education on how to, for example, hunt or use a shotgun. And we meet people where they're at. We don't assume anything. And we definitely don't talk down to anybody like a lot of us have been talked down to. So we kind of know what women want and how we want to be treated and the best way to welcome them into the outdoors. So that is the direction that we lead people.
Yeah. And so you talked about maybe doing hunting or shotgun. Can you give us an example of like, are the people that work for you, they're coming up with an idea and they're teaching a class and then it goes from there? And do they just see a need in the area?
Yep, they see a need in their community. Like we definitely see a lot of girls in Colorado who I think I'm the only female waterfowl guide in the West until this year. I trained another one. But the girls that come in our blinds, their shotguns don't fit them. They don't know how to use them. It's dad's gun, it's brother's gun, or it's really old, and you don't want to put steel through that barrel. And just like the very basics of like knowing how to quickly shoulder it, properly shoulder it, and how to lead a bird or lead a clay is kind of where we're at with a lot of our demographic. So that's like step one. And then taking them hunting. We do a lot of not wild bird pheasant hunts until this coming year in Wyoming. We're going to hopefully have a lot more wild bird hunts. But right now we do the planted hunts so that they actually like see the pheasants, understand how the dogs work, understand to walk in a line to stay safe. And before all of that, do a couple, practices with the shotgun, knowing that when you lift, you need to click the safety off at the same time so that when we actually get in the field, you're not missing your bird because you forgot to click off the safety.
Yeah, I think we've all been there and done that, right? Good thing to practice.
Yep.
So I think that's awesome that you're teaching a waterfowl thing because that's something that I always say it's a great place to have community and be able to teach somebody without having to be super ultra quiet and worrying about spoiling a hunt or something like that. You
I am very
and so you've got, I guess, upland and waterfowl hunting. What other kind of things could somebody expect if they searched out one of your guys? Or is it guides or
guides. Yep.
Yeah.
We just had our first elk camp. We're looking in 2024 to have deer, pronghorn, elk, sage grouse. We do a ton of fly fishing. We do ice fishing, more waterfowl hunts next year. I'm trying to train more waterfowl guides. Definitely pheasant, chucker. I mean, huns. If it's running around outside and we can get a license for it, probably no trapping. We're not really into the trapping, but who knows?
Maybe down the road you might find somebody that would be good at teaching that.
Yep.
I've actually had on a past episode, I had Sky, and she's married now, but her maiden name was Sky Good. But I had her on the show, and she's a trapper, and it's amazing the stuff that she does with her setups and stuff. She's somebody that you could check out for definitely for mentoring for trapping for sure. And
Cool.
I haven't had my daughter on the show for trapping. I've had her originally our stove started with my daughter, but she's also a very good trapper in the area. But I don't know if she would have spare time to help teach trapping or not. Maybe could look her up.
Yeah. Your bandwidth is important.
Yeah, exactly. You don't want to stretch yourself too thin. And that's something that looking at your site, the amount of women you have involved, you've got so much help. How did you find everybody? I mean, is it just something like word of mouth and everybody is attracted to one another?
So honestly, I didn't think it was going to be like this. I started Uncharted Outdoorswomen because there was not a waterfowl guide in Northeast Colorado that would take me as a woman hunting.
Wow.
So they were happy to take my husband, wouldn't take me. And I called all of them at the time. This was a couple years ago. So I kind of knew what I was doing, but my hunting mentor left and I just needed to get back out there and like learn from somebody else. But I didn't realize that I was not going to be welcomed. So that it made this Irish lass pretty mad. And then I'd already been teaching free fly fishing classes for the better half of a decade through various nonprofits, using money out of my own pocket, my own gear. And so when I started developing Uncharted, a lot of just my girlfriends that were outdoorsy hit me up and they were like, "Hey, I see what you're doing. I want to do that too." That's when like the permits came into place and finding employment, insurance and stuff like that, workers' comp. Things got very complex very quickly. And then let's see, by summer of this year, I had already interviewed 500 women, and I get probably 2 applications every day. So it's kind of wild. I didn't think it would be this big. And I definitely didn't think it would be in 4 states. I just thought it was going to be me teaching women how to fly fish and teaching them or taking them duck hunting because no one else would. Mm-hmm. But here we are.
Here we are. It's grown into, is it now a full-time job for you?
It is. Yeah, it's always been full-time. I quit my career in finance in February of 2020, right before COVID. Mm-hmm. So this is also not as like, I started this in 2021. It's not a very old, we just turned 2. So it's not a very old organization. So yeah, I'm busy.
You're busy. Yeah. You've got so much going on. And are the people that are working for you, they're kind of self-managing, or is it like full-time trying to line them out and get them scheduled and getting the logistics of things? Or do you have a good team for that?
So everyone's part-time. There are some that are moving into like a more solid part-time, but I just kind of require 12 events a year so that we don't get any short time folks like, oh, one and done. We don't want that. I don't have time for that. The training and all the work and effort and money I put into these gals, it doesn't work out if they're just going to be here for a short time. Mm-hmm. And we've historically working with nonprofits as a volunteer. I already know and know that it is really hard to get volunteers to show up. So that's when I knew I had to pay these girls. So Colorado is really expensive. So this is really a passion project on the side, aside from a lot of their full-time jobs that they get to go out and do and spread their skill and their passion. Because I think a lot of people think that I do everything. I could not find a doe mule deer to save my life out here last week. And I do not know very much about big game hunting. You do not want me to guide you on big game hunting, and you don't want the big game guides to guide you on waterfowl. So we all kind of, I guess I hire from my weaknesses, if that makes sense. And it's been cool because now just about all of them are into duck hunting. So sorry, not sorry.
Yeah, what can you do when a big game season is over? You can go waterfowl hunting. You can go up
exactly. The birds come to the wild game comes to you. You don't have to chase it.
Yeah. Good point. It's funny little story that I just thought of when you were talking about that. When I met my husband, he didn't turkey hunt. He was big game hunting guide and big game hunter, and he had done waterfowl hunting too. But he was like, "Why would you hunt a turkey?" And I'm like, "Well, what else could you hunt in the springtime when you can't hunt elk?" So now he's hooked on turkeys too now.
Yep.
So I think it's great that you have found a bunch of people to pitch in and collaborate with you, and basically be employees. Thinking of, like you said, Colorado's expensive. And when you're talking about how it's expensive, I'm thinking of that on the guide side. So can you tell us about, a lot of people complain that it's so expensive to go on a guided hunt, or, like an event costs so much. Can you kind of explain what some of the costs would be behind the scenes that, maybe a guest or participant doesn't recognize?
Sure. Number one, workers' compensation is really expensive. I employ these girls and I protect them, unlike most outfitters, I believe. Especially in Colorado, a lot of them are still getting away with contracting, and we can't do that with our permits. We cannot contract. And so that's a big chunk. Then, like, just general outfitting insurance is also very expensive. No matter if you're guiding 1 day or if you're guiding 30, you have to have it. It is required. And we have 3 times the state requirement because I used to sell insurance. I believe in insurance. And the minimum is like $1 million. It does not take very much nowadays to rack up $1 million medical bill. So got a lot more than that. Plus, I do this full time. Plus, I have to pay the girls what they're owed. And then, fortunately, my husband built me $100,000 plus website, so I don't have that expense. I think I pay like $60 a year for my website, which is great. I just tell him to add it to my tab, whatever $20,000 work that he does on it. A lot of just marketing, and like we have a director of marketing now, Paige Berry. She kills it at the game. She is way more creative than I am. I can crunch numbers. I can run a business. I can do taxes. I cannot pick out colors to save my life. So she does all of that and works with the guides on how does social media work? Because the funny thing is, this is actually an online business, and then we're in the field. So we're not always available. Like emails sometimes take a couple days to get back to because we're outside, as you know, being a hunting guide. And
in Colorado, we don't always have internet service. I have friends that they're like, why didn't you text me back? And I'm like, I didn't have service.
Yeah, exactly. Or like, I live on a mountain. Like I might not have even gotten your text or phone call. Mm-hmm. But just even registering your company with a state is expensive. Email, just the $14 a month per email is expensive. Like if people can't afford to go to our events, email us. And if you still can't afford putting out, half or $50 or something like that, I can definitely direct you to one of the nonprofits that I used to teach for. I don't know who teaches the classes now, but they were free. There's opportunities for that. It's just not what I do anymore.
Yeah. And are you working with any nonprofits? I mean, because what I thought you were going to say was I can direct you to a nonprofit to get you a grant to come, because that's something. I'm a regional rep for SCI, and each chapter, they do their own projects. So, I mean, mm-hmm. Each one can pick and choose what they want to do in their community. But I do know the one in our community, like they would probably say, hey, we'll give you a grant. You're a first timer. I'll give you a grant to go to this event, something like that. So are you working with any nonprofits?
We're working with a lot of grant writers. I will tell you that. Mm-hmm. We're doing this the right way because I don't want my girls to take a cut just because someone can't afford to go, mm-hmm. right? So they know what they're worth. I definitely know what they're worth. And if someone can't afford to go, I still want to make sure that our guide is getting paid what she deserves to be paid. So we have not received any scholarship money yet, but we do work with a grant writer, and I spend thousands of dollars paying her to apply us to Amber grants and things like that. We have not been successful yet, but we're working on it. She is telling me a lot of the nonprofit or a lot of the grants that we have applied for are not interested in providing scholarship money. So that is interesting. I would love to talk more about SCI and giving some of these gals a grant so somebody, a single mom or somebody like that can come for free.
Yeah, definitely. I'll share some contact information with you for chapters up in northern Colorado. We've got Denver, Colorado Springs, Upper Colorado River, which is Glenwood area, and then the Four Corners area is down near Durango, Bayfield, cool. Southwest Colorado. So I'll send you their contact information. I don't know I was going to ask you kind of what you charge, but I'm sure that varies depending on the event and what resources and guides are required. So that's something, if
Mhm.
you're listening, you'll have to just contact Erin and the website and look at events and see what they cost, because I know the range of expenses that goes into different stuff. So
Yeah.
don't complain
We,
about prices. Nobody tries to gouge people for this kind of stuff.
yeah. If I wanted to make a lot of money, I would go back into finance. Just kind of over that industry, but there's not a safe space for women in finance. Like, those gals are working hard to create it, but I just was over it. I knew I could make a difference here. It's a lot smaller industry.
Yeah. And so when you said you've been doing this for 2 years, and that's kind of the upland and waterfowl part of it, and you've been fly fishing for a while. Did you feel like as a woman you're pretty accepted in fly fishing industry?
Oh, no, no, no. I mean, here's the thing with the fishing and hunting industry in general. We need gentlemen to open doors and help us get in there, right? There have been very few gentlemen that have just like absolutely knocked down a door and been like, come on in. There are a lot of what I like to refer to as bros, where they're the ones like, right? They're like creating the barriers. They're like, oh, well, your fish isn't big. Oh, you need this $1,000 fly rod. Oh, you need this. You need that. You don't need all that. I'm also a minimalist. So if someone's asking me if a budget proof or a budget friendly way to go fly fishing, I wrote a blog on it. It's on our website. You can read all of my budget friendly tactics, because we don't need more things on this planet, right? And
Right.
if we're going to go out and enjoy fly fishing, and it's a different way to connect with nature. It's not any better or worse than spin fishing. And we don't need to be putting like more plastic into our waterways. We don't need to be putting, all the terrible chemicals and stuff like that. You don't need to be leaving trash out there. So if we're really doing what we preach, like taking out those barriers, which it would include ignoring the bros. That's one of the things that we have to do, because a lot of times I feel like they don't understand conservation. Everybody understands catch and release, right? But sometimes you got to take a fish where it is allowed, and that shouldn't be shunned, because a lot of families feed their family via fishing. And way to like throw up a barrier and say you're not welcome to fly fishing because you're keeping the fish.
Right.
Yeah. So I just try and take the ego out of everything, make it all very approachable. And I mean, I just did big game hunting. I mean, I didn't bag one, but like I wasn't wearing any camo. I just wore my orange black jacket and some upland pants.
Whether at the range or in the field, WSI Sports Hypertech bamboo tanks, tees, and leggings will have you covered. Visit WSISports.com to support the show and use the affiliate code MACO10 for 10% off your purchase. All products are proudly made in the USA. WSI is bringing back pride in America-made clothing. Again, that code is MACO10 for 10% off your order at WSISports.com.
And that's something I think that is such a misconception in hunting. And I'm a hunter ed instructor also, but the
Same.
biggest thing we can do is kind of move slowly, worry about our scent. And that's something in Colorado that we especially understand. Hunting whitetails back east is totally different. But the camouflage thing that actually is, as you said, it's kind of more disposable. It's technology. It's about a revenue stream. And I have a lot of, camo companies that really support me and that make great gear that I really like and stuff like that. But women will come in, they'll be like, what should I buy? And it's like, break up your silhouette and you are going to be fine. You're going to be
Yeah.
okay. You don't have to have all the matching camo. And I actually, back in 2016, I was on the cover of Field and Stream magazine, and I wore a mossy oak camo jacket and then a First Light gear set of pants. And you wouldn't
How could
believe
you?
the attacks from the hunting community that were like, what? Why would you do that? And it was kind of what you're saying. I knew I could have worn one set of whichever gear I chose, and I could have gotten money and sponsorships. But the whole point was you don't have to You don't have to wear that when you're hunting. And actually, when I'm really hunting, I'm going to wear whatever I have to bundle on or whatever is required when I'm out there. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, kind of a side tangent, but it's something
Well, I
that
mean,
new hunters need to understand, that you don't have to
yeah.
have all that technical stuff.
I mean, shame on those hunters that we're hating, because we need hunting money, like hunting tag money and fishing license money. In Colorado specifically, conservation is under attack.
Full time.
And
Yeah.
for anybody that is trying to keep hunters and anglers off of our public lands, shame on you. You know, you can't have it all to yourself. Even Randy Newberg just recently put out a podcast saying he's probably going to lose followers, but diversity, like, is the way to go now to get more people out and funding conservation, voting for conservation. And I just, in a debate with any of those guys trying to keep people out or put a barrier up or gatekeep, I just have zero tolerance and zero time for them.
I 100% agree. I've always embraced the block and delete buttons on social media, and here
I love that.
recently,
Yes.
I was attacked by one of our own, like somebody that I work with on committees and all this stuff. And I was just like, the first time I kind of graciously was like, "Thanks, neighbor," like. I get it, chill out.
Mm-hmm.
And then came back full blow, and I was like, block, delete, like on everything. And I was like,
They did it themselves.
That's the way it has to be sometimes. So don't be afraid
Mm-hmm.
to get rid of people that are negative in your life. But also,
you are not scary to, like, they are not scary to me. I walked off of Wall Street. Those people are scary.
Yeah. Well, and you saying that there, for anybody listening, like, don't be afraid to stand up or get somebody out of your life that is sucking the life out of you. Don't be afraid of that. I mean, it's definitely a good thing to do. And Erin, you talked about like what's going on in Colorado, and I mean, we've seen it in California, Washington, Oregon, and right now we've got full attack in Colorado on conservation. And so are you, in your organization, are you doing anything to help either educate? I mean, I know you're educating with your courses. Do you call them courses or hunts,
Sure.
classes, whatever?
Sure. Whatever.
With
Doesn't
your
matter.
offerings. Is there
Yes.
anything else that you're doing currently in this climate that we have?
So it's funny you mentioned that. One of the reasons I'm no longer on any of the 5 nonprofit boards I used to be on, previous to starting Uncharted, was I realized that I didn't need them and they really needed me. But I wasn't on the agenda, right? I was a checkbox. I was like, oh, we've got a girl on the board. We're good to go. And I was like, wait a second, I'm doing all of this work. I'm taking women fishing and hunting for free on my dime. I'm educating them about conservation. I'm running your social media. What am I doing? Like, I don't need that. So right now, I mean, if we would have had half a percent more on the wolf situation, we would have swung it the other way, right? And I see those little differences. And if we just educated just a few more women to vote for conservation rather than against ranchers and ag, which my degree is also in animal science and agriculture, we wouldn't be dealing with this wolf thing. And I don't know, a CPW, which is, by the way, a $3.5 billion organization that can provide free fishing and hunting classes for women. But there's like one gal that does it and she hires us to teach it. Like, if they had used the wolf money instead to do more education for diversity, we wouldn't have ranchers, being fearful of their lifestyle and how they are making money. And in my opinion, ranchers are some of the best conservationists, right? Mm-hmm. And you're a rancher too, like, you understand. So my background is in sustainable beef and dairy cattle from the University of Missouri. And when a family of people can see their ranch change over time and see new regulations come out and see how their lifestyle is under attack even by meat eaters, right? Like, which is so crazy. Where they see that it's under attack and how they used to be able to do practices one way, but maybe they can't do them this way anymore because they might not have water rights or, this and that because the neighbor sold them to Wall Street, which I also saw happen. You start panicking and there are fewer and fewer ranchers. And now you may see maybe a 250 acre lot of land that you used to be able to hunt because you knew, the mailman connected you because he knew that you didn't get your mule deer, and you can go hunt that land, where next year that land has been divided into 3 different multi-million-dollar properties and there's no animals living there anymore. That's a problem. Whereas I believe ranchers are some of the best conservationists because they need that land to create sustainable practices, to stay in business, to feed us. And if they sold it and just turned it into condos and took their check and went to Hawaii, like we're in a tough spot. That's more water use. That's less food to feed all of us because we all have to eat, no matter what you're eating. We all have to eat. And that comes from family. 98% of ag is owned by family farms. It's coming from a family. And if they go out of business and sell their land, anyways, I could go on and on and on.
I feel you on the big sigh.
Yeah. So yes, I've been a part of many organizations to try and educate women and other what I like to call unlikelies, which I totally stole that term, to get outside. And I know that I could break down barriers for those people to understand. And they don't need to move out into the woods. The smallest thing we could do is educate them on how to vote because they understand conservation.
That's something that I've wondered for years, is how do we educate the masses about what conservation really is? And you started this conversation saying that people don't always understand that we're not just out there pulling the trigger, killing everything we see. And so do you have ideas like how can we reach the greater population of non-hunters and explain to them what conservation is? Because what I see a lot is people are like, oh, well, if you eat it, it's okay. But I also try to explain to them, why we would want to do trapping, like bobcats, skunks, raccoons, and how, they're raiding nests of those upland birds. And, how do we explain that to the greater population?
Sure. So I start with anglers, right? Because just about everyone goes fishing. Fish don't have cute faces usually, right? So it's a little bit easier.
I think they're
and
cute.
Then, I mean, compared to like a cute little furry fuzzy deer, that gracefully goes through your property or something like that. Fish are like, oh my gosh, I don't even want to touch that. But people want to go fishing because the fish are really pretty. It takes you, fly fishing specifically, takes you to really gorgeous and amazing small mountain streams in the high alpine country, in the backcountry, which is all public land pretty much still for now. And we kind of start with, hey, don't pollute the water. And people get really addicted to fly fishing, right? Like the tug is the drug. And you go out there, and when it really hit me, one day, I was definitely dialed in on like where fish lived, how to catch them, but one day early on, I couldn't catch a fish. I'm standing in the water and I was trout fishing, standing in the water with not waders, just like, I don't know, leggings and some flip flops, let's call it. And I realized I wasn't cold. And that's why the trout weren't eating, because they need that water to be really cold. And it was really hot because it was August. And just like the little things like that, where it's like, oh, okay, I shouldn't, unless I'm going to fish to feed myself, I probably should not fish when these fish are really stressed out in this hot water. So then it starts thinking like, wow, I'm fishing the Colorado River. The Colorado River's drying up. I saw there's a bunch of companies, finance companies buying water rights from ranchers in the Colorado River. And then I just heard indigenous folks talk about how the Colorado River doesn't even reach them anymore. And they have, the number one water rights. And now they have no water. Then it starts like clicking, right? Yeah. Then I want to use less water. Then I want to teach, I don't have kids, but teach my kids, hey, don't leave the water on when you're brushing your teeth. We need it to stay in the river so it can get down farther to folks. That's kind of where it starts. On the hunting side, I do feel like a lot of gals get into bird hunting easier because they aren't cute and furry. I mean, they are cute, but they're not like, they don't, to me, I try and explain that they just don't have faces like deer do, right? It's also really
The
hard to
eyes
hit
are
them.
different, and yeah.
Right. Like they can't just like give you a look, right? So I think that bird hunting, which doesn't have to be really expensive, all you need is a shotgun and some orange to get into upland hunting, right? And a CPW website that says, oh, hey, you can hunt public land right here. And it lists the species that are out there. Not that Colorado has amazing pheasant hunting or anything like that, but it's not expensive and it's a very easy step forward. But finding somebody that isn't going to yell at you because you are holding a shotgun incorrectly is really hard. And on our website, when you create a membership, which is free, by the way, we have a lot of women type in like, I am it's like 1 in 4 women have been a victim of domestic violence with a gun.
Yeah.
So they type that in there. And when we show up, we've read their bio and we're like, hi, this is going to be a great time. We understand what has been traumatic in your past time. We're going to, if your objective is to hold the shotgun today and not even shoot it, I'm okay with that. It's just the very basics. And most of our demographic lives in Denver and the suburbs, the surrounding area, or also known as the major voting population.
Right. Yeah. And so what I'm hearing right now is that you're empowering women, and whether it's just giving them the courage to go out and do something, to take a bird, whether they're going to eat it. Do you guys teach them how to cook after you guys hunt?
We're working on that. You need special licenses and stuff on that.
Okay. And you're teaching them how to field dress and whatnot?
Yes.
Yeah,
that we
take
do
care of it
Yep.
so they can take it home and cook it. Well, if you ever want to, I have recipes on my website. They can check it out over there and see if they see anything they want. I think it's great to kind of give them that connection. When I had found your website, and as I said, I had seen you on social media, and then I was checking out your website to see exactly what you had to offer, several women came to mind. That one of them, she's a military veteran. She has PTS, and she has found hunting as her therapy. And it is just about being out there, whether it's big game or upland birds or waterfowl. She likes pretty much everything. But for somebody like that, is the best suggestion just get on the website, become a member, and then do you send email updates for events, or how are you working that?
We do. You definitely want to get on our email list. I don't, spam people, mainly because I just don't have time. But if you get on our email list, like that's one of the best ways to see when we open up events and things like that. Definitely follow us on social media, which is Uncharted_Outdoorswomen. But related to the veterans, man, the female veterans got it rough, right? Like there are free opportunities through many different veteran organizations, but then they have to go back into that environment. And what we have seen is been there, done that, and they come to us and they pay full price. And if it weren't for what I'm dealing with in the trademark world, I would have a veterans wing, but the veterans organizations are holding me back from that. So if there's a woman out there that wants to help with grants for female veterans that want to learn from other women, take them completely out of any military environment, and learn how to just focus on the actual education and knowledge for conservation and hunting and fishing, please get in contact with us, because we have tried, and yeah, it's an interesting world in the outdoor industry. I would say that there's about 2% of the people in the outdoor industry are real professionals. Everyone else, I'm just like, what are you doing? Why are you fighting this? We need everyone's license money. But it's, again, bros,
Oh, I love it. Well, I think I definitely will put the one that I'm thinking of. I will put her in touch with your website and have her go check it out, because she's somebody that is constantly working on herself, but through that reaches out to others. And I think she would be a great resource, and maybe not necessarily as a guide, but just to help connect people. I mean, I think that connection is super important. When you were talking about marketing, and you've got these different aspects of the business, when you're marketing, is there anyone particular you're in marketing to, or is it basically, as you started, like anyone and everyone, or do you have a dialed focus?
I think it's kind of anyone and everyone. We also have a lot of vegetarians come to our clinics. We don't have any vegans, obviously, but vegetarians, they're more interested in hunting their own meat because they see that it's ethically sourced and they want to go that direction. We're open to that. So we put shotguns in the hands of vegetarians a lot. And we also teach mushroom and medicinal plant identification, mainly because my attorney won't let me use the word foraging, but whatever. So,
Oh, okay. I'm thinking foraging as you were saying that. Why can't they let you use foraging?
Because people could pick the wrong mushroom and bad things can happen. So love my attorney. She is great.
Yeah, it's good to have a good attorney.
Yes, she is great. And then we also have a vegetarian on our team. So when I first got started, she would send me like, hey, the wording is off on this. Like maybe don't use the word kill. Maybe use like turn into food. Like they're on to harvest, right? Like they don't like, a lot of them don't like the word harvest either. So we just say, turn it into food, things like that. So we get some insight.
That's good. That's awesome. I love the crowd that you have and the mojo that you've got going on. I think it's really great and it's very much needed. Going forward, what are you looking at in the coming year? Just more of what you've done the past 2 years, or do you have any expansions happening?
Yeah, we are going to apply for our Wyoming Outfitters license in 2024 so that we can offer some Wyoming big game hunts. Right now, we can do small game, things like that, but we would like to offer more big game hunts because they seem to have the biggest barrier. The one we just had one in Gunnison, for example, this past year. We've got 6 really great units that the BLM understands what we're trying to do and helped us open the door to get more women out there. But we can't charge $10,000 for a bull elk hunt, right? Like I would never pay that. I kind of have an idea about hunting, right? I'm an intermediate big game hunter. I'm not going to pay 10 grand. Like I also don't really need the bull, but I would definitely pay several $1,000s to learn how to big game hunt so I don't have to go and hire the guide. So we're kind of are headed in that direction, and public lands are greedy. They need money. Like rangers are not paid a fortune, right? All of the money that we generate revenue wise, they take a portion of. They take about between 3 and 7%. And so we have to pay that to the BLM so they can have the game wardens out there. They can have the rangers out there. They can restore different areas for example, sage grouse, and block off elk breeding or elk wintering grounds, things like that. Like that takes money. It's not free. If you pay taxes, you're still not paying for conservation. You literally have to buy a hunting or fishing license. If you're snowmobiling out there and just tearing up, all the snow and having a great time, what have you paid into using that public land? Probably nothing. Whereas hunters and anglers are paying a lot. So it's full circle, trying to do the education piece. So we might not be able to generate the revenue that other outfitters do for public lands, but we're definitely trying to get more women out there at a smaller price so that they can have that reoccurring revenue in the long game from their fishing and hunting licenses.
And
plus, they're going to take your kids.
Yeah, and that's true. The family comes with the moms. When you're talking about with the BLM and you had talked about permits for part of your fees, is that who you're getting permits from, or do you work with the U.S. Forest Service also?
We're not big enough or make enough money for the U.S. Forest Service yet.
Yet. I like the word yet.
Because we would need to use like 130 days. We'd have to charge a lot of money. So we're working with what is called a permit waiver from which an individual in one of the offices. He was like, you guys are onto something. We have failed to tap your demographic. Like he gets it, right? So he was like, let me help you out with the waiver. Don't take any animals or anything like that, but let me help you out with the waiver to just get things started rolling. And, the first year we used it a couple times. The next year we used it a lot. This past year we used it a ton. And this coming year, we're getting close. We're getting really close. But we can't fill the 130 days. These girls work part-time,
Yeah.
and I'm like operations at this point. I don't want to be sitting here all the time, but that's where I'm at. And until we have, more full-time girls and more people know about us, then we won't be able to get those bigger permits unless they want to give us a permit waiver.
Well, that's awesome. It's really interesting to learn all the background of what goes into some of the projects, because I think that's something that people don't recognize a lot of the time. I mean, we just show up with our smiles and then, maybe we bring our own guns, maybe we use someone else's or whatever. And it's kind of like, well, why did this cost so much? I hear that a lot. Like, why does it cost so much? And there is a lot to doing any event. So I thank you for sharing some of the behind the scenes. I think it's really important for people to learn. And
Definitely.
with the Uncharted Outdoors, is it women or just outdoors men?
Outdoors women.
Outdoors women. Okay. I thought I heard earlier that you said outdoors men. I was like, oh no, I have it wrong. So with Uncharted Outdoors Women, is there anything else that you think that my listeners should know about the organization? Or, I mean, we talked about following your social media. I do know on your social media, I followed your personal one today, and you teach a lot of educational stuff just on the social media. I think it's great. Is there anything else that you can suggest for the listeners?
We are hiring. We are hiring in Colorado, Wyoming, Montana, and Oregon. I'm not ready to venture out into any more states at the moment because it costs about $5,000 to create space in another state and like all the work that is involved in that. But we are hiring hunting and fishing and I'll say the word foraging guides now. Like we're hiring them now because permits are due in February. So if they are applying in summer, like it is way too late. So apply now.
Okay.
On our website. Don't email me.
I will also send that to a couple of people that I've thought of in our conversation that I think may be interested in applying as well. And when we're talking about applying, you mentioned earlier that you do training. What kind of training are you doing with people that you hire?
So since we're all outdoorsmen, we're terrible millennials. So unfortunately, a lot of social media training, but we've got a gal that does all that training you can call Paige anytime and she'll pick up. She is very passionate about getting more women in the outdoors. From that, otherwise, like they usually have had some type of discrimination happen to them and they're just trying to completely avoid that experience and create a safe space for women and other unlikelies to learn. So really, a lot of them come trained, but then when it comes to the business side of things, that girls that do want to quit their terrible corporate careers like I did, and they want to make this full time, like I did work in finance as a retirement expert so that women could quit one thing and move on to the next with an income stream. And it's just, you got to have the skills, really. But yeah, the most training we do is how to work social media and websites and, and stuff like that. Usually they are rocking and ready to go when it comes to hosting events.
Well, I appreciate you sharing all the information and for sharing the Uncharted Outdoors Women with us. I hope that the listeners will go and check out your website. As always, they're going to be in the show notes. And if you have questions, Erin mentioned reach out to her. You can always reach out to us on social media or via email, and we're always happy to hear from you. Erin, thank you so much for being on the show today.
Yeah, thank you so much, Mia.
Hey, this is Lloyd Bailey, the Armed Lutheran, host of the Armed Lutheran Radio podcast, reminding you that the podcast you're listening to is a proud member of the Self-Defense Radio Network. Check out all the great content at selfdefenseradio.net.